What's up, gentlemen?
Morning.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. SK, listen, I got to tell you, when I'm looking at you, it looks like you have the most amazing idea ever because there's a light behind you that is right above your head. It looks like you're just like pumping out ideas like nobody's business. I love it.
I'll have one of my kids turn on the lights real quick.
I love it. I love it. So it's a Friday. We're at the end of July, fellas. We made it to the end of July. So one more month of 2020 coming to a close. I'm not counting my eggs before they're hatched. We're not at the end of the day yet today. So if we've learned anything in 2020, it's no assumptions, right? So
wait, what did you say?
What?
One more month?
Did I say one more month? One more day until
you're thinking the summer, not the year?
I feel like you said one more month for 2020 to come to a close. And
maybe that's what I said. That is not what I meant. Hey, let's start over. One more day until another month of 2020 is over. That's what I meant to say. So I don't know what I actually said, but that's what I meant. So,
we'll fix it in post.
Yeah, we'll fix it. It's easy to fix live videos in post, so no problem. We'll take care of it. Nobody will ever see this. Don't worry about it. All right, so Caffeinated Q&A, guys. Thank you for joining us again. This is our Friday edition of Caffeinated Q&A. And so we're gonna, as we normally do, we're gonna talk about the news. So a couple interesting news stories. I think a little more interesting than the past couple of weeks even. One is, I don't know if you all have heard, but Ford is bringing the Bronco back. Now, if you're like Shawn Hogue's age, you might not even know what a Bronco is, but for people that are my age, you know exactly what a Ford Bronco is. And so the Ford Bronco is coming back. And so that's interesting, but that's not the actual interesting part. From a marketing perspective, Ford is creating a podcast called Bring Back the Bronco. Okay, so this is a car company, a car manufacturer, very heavily visual branding or marketing that they've done traditionally in that market all the time, right? And so, of course, yeah, there's radio commercials and things like that. But the fact that a big business is starting a podcast around the release of a vehicle is just fascinating to me. And I think really hits on the idea that like the podcasting is audio marketing is making a comeback when you start seeing these very traditional brands jump into it. So I think that's very interesting. Shawn Hogue, you had a comment about this when we talked before the show. About maybe what the opportunity is here for a company like Ford to dig into a podcast.
So it's my first reaction to it was that I think Marvel is always a good example of this, where like when Marvel's looking to release a new movie or announce a new actor or even announce kind of the next season of movies, they always start with like a Comic-Con, or I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I'm not a participant myself, but they always go after like the very, very early adopters, the people they know are going to be on board with whatever they do. And they let that excitement from that event drive the marketing moving forward. And so I'm just curious, this is all speculative, but I'm curious if they've identified that those kind of early adopters for the Bronco are listening to audio. And so maybe it's, the last time the Bronco was around, you only had radio. And so they're used to an audio form of engaging content, or I don't know, but that's kind of my guess is just that they've identified early adopters in that market and said, hey, yeah, we're going to launch a podcast.
So first things first, I don't know how old you think I am, but television did exist. It wasn't only radio when I was young.
Was it black and white?
No, it was not. No, it was not. But yeah, I mean, that's very interesting.
To have paintings done for photographs.
So we don't talk about this a lot, but the whole like early adopter, like, majority, early majority, late majority, and laggards. We should maybe talk about that at some point, but that's very interesting is when you are hitting on, like, we want the early adopters, where are those people? That's brilliant. I would be very curious to know if that's what they're going after, but yeah.
So Shawn, you're suggesting that the target demo for the new Ford Bronco is an NPR loving, 99% invisible listening, middle-aged male?
I have no idea. I'm just like I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know why else you start on a podcast. I think that's a very unique choice, and so there obviously is a reason behind it. I just the best guess, and if they aren't doing it this way, they probably should be. Is where are your early adopters at, and how are you going to engage them well?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my hope is that they've identified that there.
Yeah. No, I think that you're spot on with your analysis. I would also add that perhaps with podcasting advertising has been pretty cheap historically, in terms of dollar spend per attention. Podcasters are often willing to accept advertisers onto their podcast for less than traditional marketing measures. So I think there's part of that, and then maybe Ford just said, well, we could pay a bunch of different podcasters, or we could just do our own. And since they have the brand recognition and the identity already to do that, maybe that was part of the decision as well.
Yeah. And the fact that they're storytelling, right? Like they're part of what I read anyway that they released is they want to tell the story, the history of the Ford Bronco. The fact that they're getting back to the roots of storytelling as opposed to just what car companies always do, which is just direct marketing. Like, buy now, the discount through the end of today, you have to show up, sign and drive, like all of these things that came from the car industry where they're just trying to scare you into hurrying up so you don't lose out on money. And now they're going back to storytelling. I like it.
So think about it this way. This is another potentially interesting idea, is that like when you listen to stories in your vehicle while you're already driving, it has to be audio. And so if I'm driving, I'm going to a podcast. I listen to podcasts all the time, mostly in my car. And so if it's like, oh, what would this be like if I was actually driving a Bronco right now? You know what I mean? Like, create that desire as I'm driving a vehicle. Like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be so cool if? That's interesting.
Yeah, that's very.
Well, and the proof will be in the pudding. If it truly is an engaging story, maybe there is some internal battles at Ford that happened over this, and then they're essentially creating a long form, infomercial that's audio. Mm-hmm. But if the content is there, it will get listeners, it will get attention, and it will help the brand.
Yeah, and then marketers will ruin it, and every car company will have a podcast, and we'll have to think of another medium. But so yeah, very interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that one and see how it plays out. I think it's supposed to launch in like August 10th or something like that. It's pretty soon that they're supposed to launch it, so we'll keep an eye on it. Another very interesting one, and if one of you guys can grab the link and throw it in the comments, I think it's worth watching. Please don't leave and go watch it now, but if you feel the need to, we'll be here when you get back. But so Nike put out a new commercial, and Nike has just been for years now crushing the commercial market. I mean, they are. I've said before, I'm an Apple fanboy. Nike's commercials, and I'm not a huge Nike fan. Like I'm not a diehard Nike shoe person or anything like that. Their commercials are just absolute brilliance over and over and over again. And so they came out with a new one. And here's the takeaway. So watch it, you'll get it. I don't know how to explain it well, but they essentially took two clips of two different sports and they merged them so it looks like it'll be like half of a soccer player and half of a rugby player, and it looks like they're walking arm in arm. And so it's a really, really interesting commercial, all brand like they always do. There's no sales pitch. But here's one of the takeaways I want you guys to have. So they published some information about what it took to make that commercial, and they didn't publish timelines, but in the commercial, they credited 102 people in 7 distinct companies, not including Nike, that it took to put the commercial together. And so this is a 90-second commercial. Okay. They went through, I believe they said 4,000 video clips, grabbed 72 of them. As I kind of explained, they spliced them together. So it's really 36 real video clips when you watch the video. But 102 people in 7 companies to pull off a 90-second ad. And I just think that for most people, they don't realize the amount of effort and time and energy and money that goes into producing these commercials that big brands are putting out. And so, when we think about creating commercials, it's like I've said to you guys, like you grab your phone and you record something and you publish it. And that is one way to do it for sure. But don't lose sight of the fact that some of these people that you may be competing against, they're putting together teams of people and teams of teams to create content. And this is a real big money industry. And if you're competing with Nike, if you're making shoes, there's a way to do it, but it is not to compete head to head with production quality for Nike shoes. Or Nike, I guess, not Nike shoes. It's just not going to work. You're never going to win that battle, because I'll guarantee you this, those 102 people in 7 companies, they're no slouches, right? Like, those are legit people that know what they're doing, getting paid top dollar to create a commercial that's going to have millions and millions and millions of views. If you think you're going to win that game competing head to head against them, I have some bad news. You're not going to win that game, right? You can't compete on production value. And so we really have to be honest about what it takes to create production level quality like that, but also how do you compete against people in the market? Because you might not be competing against Nike, but there's probably someone in your market that is spending more money than you on marketing. So how do you compete against those companies? What makes a good commercial? How do you do that on a small budget? And I'll just throw this out there, and I want your insight, guys, on it if you have anything to add. But what Nike does so well, regardless of how many people and how many companies are working on it, is they are evoking emotion. That's what their commercials do. They're emotional commercials, and that is something that you don't need a big budget for. They have it, so they're willing to use it. And I'm not saying it hurts anything, but there are lots of really creative content that evokes massive amounts of emotion that didn't cost millions of dollars to make. So to me, that's what makes a good commercial, is something that really evokes emotion.
So a couple of things, Joshua. 100% agree that most people aren't competing with the production quality. Like, when you get into marketing, creating the content is often the expensive part. Mm-hmm. What you can still do and what you can still compete on, though, is your ability to tell story. There is no, like, your story can be just as compelling as Nike's, even if it's recorded on an iPhone.
Yes.
And so if you're going to spend time and investment somewhere, know that you're going to lose the game if you're competing on production quality. You can compete if you spend your time and energy on how do I best tell the story I'm trying to tell. And so, like, if you're going to lean in anywhere, lean in there. And you know, if you have the ability to spend a little bit on production, great. You know, it doesn't hurt to improve that if you can. But don't be so overwhelmed by, like, oh my gosh, I could never hire 7. You know, that doesn't matter. Tell your story and tell it well. The people that need to hear it will find it.
Yeah.
What else I was going to say, and now I lost it. But
yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, because the other thing you can do as a small company to compete is Nike's going to put out at most 1 commercial a month, right? Like, I can make a commercial. I can tell a story every day. I can tell multiple stories every day. So it allows you to connect on a different, more intimate level. Nike's not going to hire all those people and produce all that content to create a 15-second video to post on Facebook. They're just not. And that 15-second video on Facebook may get just as much depth, maybe not reach, but just as much depth as what Nike is getting with their commercial, or more. So, yes.
I remember my second thing.
Go, do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when people hear, like, you create marketing content for emotion, I don't want that to be confused with, like, you're not shooting for dramatic for the sake of being dramatic. You're looking for the compelling story that speaks to something deeper than just a transactional interaction. And so it's like, this is what I believe. And if you believe it well, you're going to get excited about it.
Yes.
So Nike's commercial is all about, like, the power of sports to, you know, bring unity and to, like, bring people together. If you believe that, you're on fire for this commercial. It's not that they're like, oh, we're setting out to make people cry. No. It's just like, we really want to tell this story well. And because we're telling it well, the people who relate to it are feeling this overwhelming, like, emotional response to it.
Yeah.
Well, and I would like to interject actually on that too, because it kind of relates to what we were talking about last episode about risk. You know, yes, Shawn, I think that they're saying sports bring us together, but I think they're also trying to at least signal, and we can talk about the genuineness at another time of their virtue signaling here, but that sports brings social change, and we are in a movement of social change in the 21st century right now, and like it or not, they're taking a position on that issue, sort of, and putting their brand behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I appreciate what they're doing in the sense that they're a big brand and most big brands are afraid to take a position on anything because they're worried about investor dollars. They're worried about what the stock market says. Nike's willing to take a position. So regardless of whether I agree or disagree with what they're doing, traditionally, they've been a company where they're not afraid to take a stance on something. And I appreciate the candor that they have to say, you know what, we're taking a stance on it. And there's a great book called Shoe Dog from the guy that started Nike, Phil Knight. And he talks about that, about being passionate about things and being okay with bringing that into a brand and saying, we care about this issue and we're willing to have some people upset and disagree with us on the issue, but that's okay. We're still staying true to what we believe on the issue. So I do appreciate that about them. So we'll keep bringing you news. There's lots of interesting stuff going on. There's lots of COVID related marketing news. But with that, we've not been diving deep into that because quite honestly, the news is all over the place. Nobody actually knows what's going on. The only thing we know for sure is ad spend is way down. So prices are way down. Lots of these big advertising agencies are laying off people and ad costs are going way down. And we've seen it with some of the clients that we're running ads for. The costs have definitely decreased. But outside of that, I don't think anybody really knows what's going on in the marketing industry due to COVID. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. So if you want information about those commercials, about the stuff we talk about in the news, you can sign up for the email list at ghostcreative.com/live. We'll send out one email a week there. And then the other thing is we're here every Tuesday and Friday. So I just like to remind you guys of that. So we're here every Tuesday and Friday. This is, of course, our Friday edition, but we will be here on Tuesday as well. So today we're going to talk about doing the hard things first. And so I told these guys this before the show started, but we talk a lot about marketing tactics. And I think that's valuable, but we're trying to hit on some of the other more like soft stuff that the emotional, psychological part of this, because so much of what we do it happens prior to the tactics. And so I want to talk about doing the hard stuff. And some of this was initiated by a conversation I had with a friend yesterday. And so what I see happening over and over again is when you're starting a new project, you're starting a new business, you're pivoting your business, whatever that thing is, you're trying to initiate some change. What happens is people start with the easy stuff because it feels like they're making progress, right? And they put the hard stuff off. So I'm going to throw a question at you guys right before I even get into this. So if I'm going to go out and start a business, there's something I see over and over again. And I'm just curious what your answers are. There's no right or wrong answer here, but when I see people saying, I'm going to start a business, I often see them doing the same thing first. What do you guys think that first thing is? So you have a friend that comes to you and says, I'm going to start a business and I already fill in the blank. What is the easiest? What is the low hanging fruit? What do they do first?
Take a nap.
File the corporate papers.
Shawn, I don't know about your answer. SK, that's a good answer. You know the one I hear all the time? I got my business cards made, or I got my logo made. Okay. And I hear it all the time. Yes, Lois, first, create a logo. That's what everyone does. And listen, I know that not everyone agrees with this position, but I'm going to stand by it. I don't think the logo is ever the thing. I know too many great companies with horrible logos to believe that the logo is the thing. And I always challenge people, I've probably said it on the show before, if you don't believe me, draw the Starbucks logo for me. Just grab a piece of paper, draw the Starbucks logo, and then go look up the Starbucks logo and see how close you got it. Because
Nike's not Nike because they have a tailored check mark.
No, exactly. And so the idea is that you go after the logo because it's very time constrained. It's something that you feel like you have control over. You can feel like it's creative. You can hire somebody. You can do all of these things that start down this path of being a business owner. And the reality is getting your logo created, even naming your business, it's not the thing. It's not the hard part. It's the easy work that we do first to put off the hard work. And so before you start any project, what I would encourage you to do is really sit down and think about what the hard work is. Like, what is the hard part of your business? And so, keeping with the theme, I'm going to quote Seth Godin. Seth Godin says, figure out what the hard part of your business is. And if it doesn't have a hard part, you probably don't have a business, right? Because if there's nothing hard about it, it means that anybody can do it, right? And so if anybody can do it, anybody probably has. So when you're really looking at the hard part, the reason I push so hard on getting to the hard part first is because if you create the logo and incorporate and do all of those things, and I'm not giving you legal advice, so don't take me saying if you incorporate as me saying you shouldn't. You do all of those things and you feel like you're making progress. And 6 months in or a year in, you realize you got to the hard part and you actually don't know how to do that. You don't know how to do the hard part. Maybe you're not capable on your own of doing the hard part. And now you've spent 6 months or a year or 2 years getting to the hard part of your business when you could have started there, and a month in, you could have realized that it wasn't going to work, right? And so we do the easy stuff. We pretend like we're making progress. We hit the hard part, and then we realize that the thing's just going to die on the vine because I'm out of energy because I spent it all creating logos and none of it doing the hard part of the business. So there's really 3 things for me that I think about when it comes to getting past the hard part. One, obviously, you start with you have to define what the hard part is. So let's talk about Ghost Creative first. Let's think about like what the hard part of our business is. The hard part of our business is not creating websites. The hard part of our business is not creating marketing campaigns. It's not setting up Facebook ads. The hard part of our business actually is not even helping businesses define their brand. That's hard, but that's not the hard part. The hard part is this: building trust in an industry where trust is so broken, right? And so for me, what I believe the hard part of our business is talking to a business owner that is really trying to move the needle, and we really believe we can help, but they've been hurt by another marketing company. They've been ripped off. They've been lied to. And now we have to come in and we have to say, we're not that other company. And we have to build that trust enough that they can lean on us to help them make decisions in the industry that we're experts in. And we can lean on them to help us make decisions in the industry they're experts in. So I'm curious with you guys, do you agree or disagree with that statement that in the marketing world, the hard part is building trust?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the content creation is content creation. It's got rules and processes and tools. Trust is relationship. It's built over time. It's faithful execution. And that's difficult.
Are you waiting for me?
Of course.
I just want to reassure you that I'm okay. We're operating on my own time. No, I'm kidding. I certainly don't disagree with that. I very much. I think there's more to it, and I just don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah,
it's just you're dealing with like understanding people, and so there's this element of not only are you building trust with like whoever you're trying to work with, but you're also trying to understand at scale why people do what they do. It's more than just like creating a message. It's genuine understanding of what motivates people, what gets them excited, what they believe. And I think more than ever, we're up against that's shifting faster than ever before.
Yeah.
So trying to stay on top of that is incredibly overwhelming.
Yeah. 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 And I think trust is what the hard part of a lot of businesses, but they don't realize it.
Yeah.
Right? Because, we tend to think that the thing we make is the hard part. And I really don't think that's the hard part of a lot of businesses. So I like to leave you guys with practical stuff. So I think that, when I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about marketing specifically, what is the hard part? So whether you're doing your marketing yourself, whether you're hiring somebody to do it, I think there are 3 hard parts of marketing. And so first and foremost, I think one of the hardest things when it comes to marketing is patience. Because what people think is that I'm going to go on Facebook ads, I'm going to create an ad, and I'm going to spend $10 and I'm going to make $100 in sales. And the reality is that doesn't work. And so when you go into the hard part of your business, to the hard part of marketing without patience, you're going to be so frustrated, and you're going to be one of the people that comes to us and say, I tried Facebook ads and they don't work. And so Shawn, I don't know if Gary Vee is paying him for this, or if this is just because he believes so much in this book.
I am cool. I have 4 books here in anticipation of that I'd be able to share them. And knowing what today's topic was, this was one of them. I've talked about it before. If you want to understand kind of some basics of marketing in a digital world, jab, right hook. It talks about like setting up the jab to land the right hook, meaning you have to invest in marketing that only sets up the knockout punch.
Yes. And so that's where the patience comes in. So it's really that how many jabs do you have to throw before you can throw the right hook? And most people, they create a Facebook ad. So they come out the gate, they throw a right hook. The right hook does not land. And they say, boxing doesn't work. I'm like, no, you're just not good at boxing. And so it's not that Facebook ads don't work, it's just that you're not good at Facebook ads. But that patience to be able to say, like, I'm going to try this and see if it works. And I'm going to look at the result. And based on the result, I'm going to adjust and try it again. So many people hire us and they come with just completely false expectations in terms of what's possible from a marketing perspective to do it right. And we refuse to not do it right. So doing marketing right takes time, and that's hard. Second is getting inside the head of your consumer. Anybody that has gone through the idea of trying to create customer avatars, you'll realize it's very difficult. It's a hard part of figuring out your business is who are you actually talking to? And so when you start to dig into who are you talking to, where everyone goes in the beginning, when you say like, okay, who are you trying to reach? The answer is everyone. And that is the wrong answer. That just means you haven't dug in. You haven't done the hard work of figuring out who that person is that you're trying to reach. And so this really gets kind of swept under the rug, and, you know, it gets put off until tomorrow forever. And so we try all kinds of marketing tactics, right? We try all these marketing tactics and we say none of these tactics work. And it's not that the tactics don't work. It's that you're confused about who your products are for, right? So you're showing up to the pool party in your suit and tie and you're wondering why nobody's inviting you to swim, right? You're talking to the wrong people using the wrong message. And this is hard work. There's no way around it. You just have to dig in and do it and try it and figure out whether you're right or wrong. So that's definitely a hard part of marketing. And the last one is giving up your hard-earned cash or your time to really devote to marketing. And again, you can do this by yourself. You can do it with just time, but don't kid yourself. Doing marketing takes time or it takes money. In all the companies that you've heard of, all the companies that you can tell me their name, you either pass them on your way to work or they're spending a lot of money on marketing, right? Probably both. But they're spending a lot of money or time. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. It's money and or time, and very likely both. And so these big companies that you hear, when you hear about Amazon and you hear about Apple and you hear about Nike and you hear about Athleta and all these companies, they spent massive amounts of money on marketing, like unfathomable amounts of money on marketing. The days of if you build it, they will come are gone. And I'm not even convinced that they ever existed. Okay. Because there's always been marketing. From the beginning of time, from the beginning of business, there's been marketing. Today is no different. And you guys know it's getting more and more and more crowded. We're being pushed on from every angle, from billboards to TV to podcasts that we just talked about. If you think you're going to start a business and your product is going to be so amazing that the world is just going to come find it, good luck. Good luck. There are lots and lots and lots of businesses that no longer exist that believe that same thing. And you could be the one. You could be the one that figures it out, but it's very unlikely. And so for me, that's the thing. Do the hard work first. Set out with patience. And I say patience is hard. And if you don't believe me, stand in line at the DMV. Patience is hard. Get behind somebody driving 25 and a 45, even when you don't have somewhere to go. Patience is hard. It's hard work. The second thing is getting inside the head of your consumer. Take the time, figure it out, dig in. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just hard work. And lastly, be prepared to devote time or money that you've earned to marketing if you really want to make a change. Now, if you want to stay where you are, it's okay. You don't have to do any of these things. Just keep doing what you're doing and you will stay where you are, likely. If you want to make a bigger impact, you have to do these 3 things. I don't know how else you do it. And that's the hard part of marketing. It's not creating a Facebook ad. It's not creating a website. That is not the hard part. That's the easy part. So guys, that's my, I would say 2 cents, but I'm always long-winded. So I think that's at least 4 cents. if you guys have anything to add, feel free to interrupt and add it. If not, I think that, so one thing I do see, Shawn, is I see Missy posted, the hard part for our hands-on business during a hands-off pandemic is finding customers that follow safety rules and feel confident enough for a massage. That's a real thing right now, right? There's lots of this going on where when you have in Missy's case, a literal hands-on business, now you don't have control over this entire interaction, right? So you have to find both customers that are confident enough to come and feel like it's safe, but also follow the rules. Because if you've been watching the news, you know that there are people on complete opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to the coronavirus, COVID stuff that's going on. And you have people that say it's all a hoax. And you have people that say that, if you look at somebody the wrong way that has COVID, that you're going to die tomorrow. Regardless of where you are individually, as a business, you have to know who you're inviting into your business. Where are those people on that spectrum? And so, because you have an obligation to keep your employees safe. And so this is a really, really difficult real life thing that a lot of businesses are going through that Missy's hitting on. And I wish I could sit here and say, here's the answer for you. You just go follow this checklist. I don't have that answer. And so it's really hard. The one thing I would say is, man, is there a way to know who those clients are before they walk in the door and filter them to know how they feel about this stuff and make it very clear, like, these are the rules of our business. If you don't like it, then you're going to have to wait until everyone's comfortable you coming in. But yeah, that's a real life difficult thing that people are going through. So is there anything else that you guys have to add? If not, I'm going to wrap up. Shawn has another book. Shawn always has another book. All right. Tell us about this one, Shawn.
Yeah. So if finding strategic time to tackle hard stuff is something that you struggle with, I 1000% recommend this book, because the entire book is about what they call the whirlwind. And so it's the like day-to-day operational stuff that you just have to take care of. And by nature, that whirlwind sucks you in. And unless you're intentional about creating frameworks and margin to tackle the hard, important stuff, you're never going to. And so this really is, I've seen people talk about it kind of on an idea level, like, oh, isn't this a great idea if you could do this? This gets to a very practical, like, here's how, like, walks you through, here's how you can, like, actually do that. And so it's a great read. If you're particularly, struggling with this topic, check it out. 4 Disciplines of Execution by Chris McChesney and Shawn Covey. It's great.
Awesome. I joked about it earlier, but I do want to be clear. We have no affiliates whatsoever. So all of these books that we recommend,
I'm open to changing that on a personal level. So like,
I think we're required by law to let you know if it's an affiliate link or we are affiliates. So we will be sure to do that. We will be sure to do that. But all of the books that we recommend are truly just books that we use and that we found value in. So I hope you guys do as well. So, all right, we're 3 minutes over. That's pretty good for us. So thank you guys for joining us. Have a great weekend. Shawn and SK, thank you so much for your input. If you guys have any questions, as always, you can reach out to us. You can sign up for the email list at ghostcreative.com/live. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe. And we will see you guys on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.